Welcome to the podcast of School Beyond Limitations. In this podcast, you will learn how to guide your child through their school life with the intention to help them find their unique essence that will allow your daughter, your son to live a fulfilled and meaningful life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. And today we will be talking about education creates lifestyles, and are we really aware of it? So, Martina, would you like to start?
Yeah, I can start. Yes, and I would say we can't actually divide the two things, right? Because education is all over and also lifestyle. And of course, I would say it's just an implicit thing that happens. Education shapes us. Education, whether at home, whether with friends, whether outside, and the way I look at education does make all the difference, because we know that children, when they are young, they just copy what we are doing. And everything, we are doing as an adult person, especially if we are an important reference point for the child, whether this is, a parent, whether this is a very close friend, whether this is the teacher, the facilitator. They copy us, they check whether we are doing what we are saying, and if we ourselves have a lifestyle that basically is geared towards possibilities rather than shrinking, and rather than limiting ourselves, and we are showing, ourselves towards our students or our children. Look at this, look at how interesting this is, opening up, asking questions and so forth. Then this has an impact on the young people. So I really believe education, for me, it's clear we need to be aware of that. And the tiny little things are so important. I remember, will never forget a video which I watched a few decades ago now, video which showcased, the imitation the children basically apply to their own lives. And I saw, on this video, when we didn't have all these digital devices yet that much, but I saw a father shouting at a child, and then the child shouting back, or not shouting back to the dad, but shouting to other people. Or I saw in this video a child copying the mother who was smoking and then also starting to smoke, and all of that. So I think we need to be aware that everything we do, is seen and doesn't go unnoticed, and especially children, who are finding their ways in their lives. They are copying the patterns that parents showcase, their teachers showcase. If a teacher is constantly, lunatic or moody and so forth, then they may also say, I can showcase my emotions the way I want, and everyone needs to go with this. And I think we can really shape the way we act, the way we think, the way we speak, the way we look at others. And that's so important because starting from very early and following through this is incredible and has an impact. And only recently I saw another video on social media where an Olympic winner was asked by a journalist or by somebody else in the room, why is it that it always feels that you always have clear answers to everything, and they are always kind of looking towards possibilities? And then this person said, I'm aware, I've learned that I can work with my brain, and my brain is my computer, and my brain will actually learn patterns, and I can then decide and choose whether I want to give an answer that that is positive, or an answer that makes me a victim, and I think that was very, very powerful, because I also believe that. And Naeef, I think this is something that we also do at the SBL. Would you say that SBL shapes the education and the lifestyle of their students through what we offer at the SBL, at School Beyond Limitations? And if yes, can you make some examples, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I'd like to reflect on some of your thoughts, which is, we sort of imitate what we see because nothing goes unseen in this world, right? And education, as SBL also emphasizes and tries to, let people know, is not just the 3 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours of school and the academic learnings we do. It's beyond that. Education is about basically learning through life and learning from life, right? So as we go, since childhood, at first we see our parents do certain things, as you said. Then as we grow up, we sort of like expand ourselves to new social circles. And then from our friends, we learn from the teachers because kids, they spend a lot of their times in school. So school is, of course, is a great facility is from learning from, but it shouldn't be just limited to the school. It should be way beyond that. It should be how they then um, participate or engage in things in their social life with their families and relatives and friends in their work time and so on. As SBL also teaches, there, of course, for categorizing things, we terminalize a lot of the things. For example, we have financial learning, we have travel learning, we have academic learning, holistic learning as a whole, because SBL has got a holistic approach to learning, which basically emphasizes on all the aspects of learning and what is required and should be required for an individual's personalized learning model. And I think because SBL practices this lifestyle of learning through life from every aspect of it and to notice what's happening around and to belong to the surrounding and to belong to the environment so that I catch on everything and I try to, either observe it or if there's a problem, then I look for a solution or I enhance things. And I think humanity has always evolved through education. We just never realized what true education is. We learn to cook, that's a part of education. We learn it. We learn to communicate with people. That's a part of education. We learn it. Anything that we say, I think we first have to learn it, and then it's about the perspective. If we see that we are learning through life and we are learning everything as we go ahead, I think that's when the idea of education shifts from this traditional and conventional thinking that, oh, I have to get to a school, I have to get a degree in order to be um, intellectual or something like that. Now, don't get me wrong, academic studies, as we have discussed multiple times, is necessary, but that basically amplifies our understanding in depth for theoretical topics. And it's good. It's necessary to have to sustain in a so-called civil world because you got to understand theoretically why certain things are happening. And it also helps us to be literate. But I think beyond just literacy, which is a great aspect, and beyond just academic knowledge, education is a lot more than that. It's about understanding the society, understanding the world and people and humanity and history as well. Even all the scientific matters that the new discoveries, they're not memorized through, they're learned through as they go on to into a topic and then they research on, I don't know, new vaccines, let's say. They basically experiment things, and this is it. This is education. Education is also about experimenting on a lot of things, but I think the challenge arrives when the people who are responsible for experiencing the things with the children, oftentimes, it's a huge responsibility for them, and they have to get this understanding of what exactly they are trying to provide for a specific individual. That experiment and that experiential learning um is not something that's standardized or should be standardized for everyone. That has to be very personalized because we're all on our own journey. And I think this is where also SBL tries to bring the essence of facilitator training, which then prepares them for a greater understanding of how they can feel more connected to an individual and meet their needs. because I mean, a part of the school's value is also that it provides personalized learning for every single individual, and it doesn't, try to fit everyone in the same shirt. Um, yeah, so I think these are what I think of SBL, and to be very specific, as you can see, and I think we've also discussed this multiple times, is that we start off this day at school by saying that we do meditation by the warm-ups and then slowly move on to the topic of the school and we learn it as a group and then we go on to high time or individual learning sessions. But after the school is where also the learning happens and we carry that on. For example, we learned about how we can better connect with people. Let's just say because it's part of the things that I did for communication. And theoretically, we learned a lot of the things like, oh, if I do this and that happens, and I expect this, and I can connect through this and that. But after school, that's when I can go with to a person and we actually, form a conversation. And then I pick on things and I work on that for a research paper or I work on that for a presentation. And then I work on it for the entire day. And then, as I'm going through my day, I go with my family time and I learn from that. And the next day I present it. So you see, this is like a lifestyle and like a life cycle that we create. That we go and learn from everyone, and then we share, and then I get to listen to them, and then I get to pass it on or carry it on for my next activity. I think this is exactly the beauty of learning is. And as we were talking in the last conversation, the idea of university is to bring every single individuals who want to discuss, who want to learn, and they come to a building, or they used to come to a building, and then we had the facilitators or the teachers or the professors who are like interested to share their experiences and their understanding of things. And it's a collective learning environment which was created within a building. But because the world has been advancing rapidly in the last 15, 20 years, we now have this thing called technology through which we can connect from all over the world. And I think this is the beauty. I mean, it's exactly how we use certain things. There are a lot of the bad things of the internet, but I think these are the good sides which can be used for the betterment of humanity. Is to bring everyone from every single part of the world, and we are all motivated learners who just collectively come together to share a platform where we can openly create a space for safe sharings.
Yes, and if you just described it so well, if there is clarity around, that learning it is a personalized aspect, of course, as well, and it's an individual experience, but it's an individual experience embedded in a collective experience, and that's very important. And I think you described it so accurately. And if I'm learning this at home and also in school, that that we co-create constantly, that we are there to actually shape our own life, and our own present moment as well as our future, then this has a radical impact. And sometimes you were mentioning before also the aspect of communication, and I think you're right. We at SBL, we also really do lots of things in order to make our students and ourselves understand how important it is to conduct and to lead a mindful and conscious life, because and this is also related to communication, to all the soft skills. And I remember to just come with a very tangible example, in one, as you related before, your topic around also the teacher training, that we always have very experienced teachers at SBL. We always have facilitators who really come with lots of, insights and knowledge, and of course also experience as a teacher, and yet they need to undergo the training. And they also see that our way of communication is completely different, because it depends. And I remember, to get back to this example where we did something in a collaborative space, and we always invite people to give feedbacks and to co-create. And when you want to co-create, you need to talk to one another, you need to share ideas, and you need to also give constructive feedback or say, have you thought about this? And yes, interesting what you bring to the table, or this doesn't really relate to me, but have you thought of that? And in that specific moment, we had a situation where, one of the participants gave really kind of very strong feedback to one person, right? A feedback that was actually kind of shattering the other person, in there. And we then discussed this, and we said how important it is to give feedback, honest feedback, but also in a way that appreciates the other person first, because if you do not appreciate, and that's a lifestyle. That's a lifestyle that I learn. And if I learn that, and if I bring that to the table, and if I collaborate within a team from that angle, then the other person will never feel necessarily defensive anymore, because they see, okay, I've been seen for what I bring to the table, and I have now team members who help me opening up my way of thinking, my way of seeing the world, my way of seeing this topic, and I bring another element to it, and that's so important, So I think that's a very important example for lifestyle, yeah, for shaping the way I approach my life anytime. And it's easy to approach life when everything is going well, but it's less easy when it's not going that well. And then my personal mentors often say, when there is a complexity out there, then they always invite me to say, are you ready to be the energy? Are you just ready to be the energy? Are you ready to destroy and recreate and uncreate? And once we are aware of this, that we are constantly the energy, and also the energy for ourselves and the energy for others, then where others can expand rather than shrink, because that's also important, and we can expand rather than shrink, and our brain can expand rather than shrink, or keeping the status quo. That is, of course, the creation of a lifestyle that changes my life completely, because I look at life from an angle of what else is possible. What kind of energy do I bring to this space in order for myself to expand, to recreate, to look at it from a different angle, and also in order to be maybe the facilitator for others to see it from a different angle, instead of making them feel uncomfortable in their lives. So, yes, we need to be aware that education, I think, is an amazing tool to shape, our lifestyle. And the more we are aware of that, the more we know. You mentioned before what we are doing at SBL with, mindfulness, meditation, setting intentions, being ready, co-creating, and all of that. The more I'm doing that, the more I know that I can, and we talked about this already many times, the more I can really shape my own life and the life of others. And that doesn't mean that I have to set the expectation too high that the entire world needs to change straight away. But I think already making the choice every day, in every moment of the day, to say, okay, what can I be here? What can I be here? Out of the idea of how can I serve with what I bring to the table. That's very powerful. And Naeef, I would just like you to still, because I see how you have developed this kind of lifestyle all over time. And I would like you to maybe bring an example of your own life where you see that your lifestyle, and lifestyle is lots of different things, right? It's communication, is how I eat, is how I sleep, is how I decide to use my phones, and how I decide to interact with others, how I decide to learn new things or intake new things, how I decide to listen to what's happening around me. It's all of that. Maybe that you share with us a real life example where you can showcase that this kind of approach changed kind of your lifestyle and how you feel about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would like to expand on this a little bit by starting. As you were mentioning, that you, you know, speak with your mentor, and then sometimes, some words are being exchanged, and then you think of something, and then practice that, or you put that in practice, right? I think as we go on to life, we will have many incidents or many situations where we sometimes might feel stuck. And that's where we have to stretch ourselves. And that's where we have to be like, go with the unusual and then go with the experience just by as it is to learn from it and learn through it and then, overcome the challenge, right? Now, this can be done by an individual alone. I'm not saying it's impossible. It can be done because it is very possible. Eventually, they're the ones who will be, overcoming that. Um, but I think it becomes much easier if you have the right set of people to overcome the challenge with. And this is where, schools or institutions or collectivism comes in. And you have to have the, I wouldn't say the word right, but you have to have like-minded people around you to, support you through. And I think one of the understanding of SBL and its classroom culture is that it's not passive learning, it's active learning. And the facilitators learn with you as you go through your learning of life. And also from the peers, because there is always an inner exchange of words and ideas and experiences and all. And I think these are the things that uplifts you because you are in the first place, you're a motivated learner. And then it uplifts you and amplifies your broader understanding to go, and then it eases a bit, the path, it eases a bit, right? Now, I think to your question, lifestyle is something that gets created over time through practices of habits and little things, right? Few of the core practices of SBL is that we do regular journaling, reflection, and reading and writing, and also it helps develop the soft skills. It helps you think more widely and more broadly, and then from different perspectives, right? And I think these are all the things that got inbred in me. And I think it will eventually, I mean, if someone practices this for long enough, I think everyone just subconsciously have these attributes towards, education or towards their day-to-day regular lifestyle, right? And I think there are many things that I put into practice for my lifestyle, but one of the things I think I've constantly mentioned and still would like to mention is communication. Because as I still go through life and as I'm still maturing and growing, I realize how much this one skill is necessary to survival for the contemporary world we live in, and is necessary to just be everywhere, to be expressive. And the lack of expression, the right set of expression, the lack of communication has led to a lot of the, I don't want to go deep into words or deep into stories, but a lot of the negative things that are happening in our world. And I think this little soft skill can be learned through and can be learned as an art of life. And as I put that into practice, as you already know, that I have gotten myself engaged with groups and with people, which I think are great learning tools for me. Because when I sit at those tables with those people, I get a lot of perspectives from experienced ones, from the ones who are responsible for certain things, and it's helping me grow and it's helping me expand myself to different sets of groups, and then I'm able to hold a conversation with all those topics. I can listen and I can understand, I can process, and then I can also say something, put something to the table. And I think this is what many people find interesting, is that I'm not just a listener, but I also, even if it's very less, I can also contribute something to the table. And I think that gives me the access to, having regular conversations, right? I can go with one example. Like I had the opportunity to sit with a few of the greatest researchers in my country. And this opportunity came up because I knew someone from a university here, who then got me the access to that. So this is like a process that comes along as they see you and as they get a reflection from your lifestyle. How I live is exactly what people thinks of me, and I genuinely believe it, because if I live as a person who is curious, who is engaging, and who wants to learn, I think everybody gets attracted to you naturally, because exactly they're the kind of person. For example, for me, I would exactly be connecting with the person who is curious about things. Like you mentioned, we had an incident in our teachers training, and I think the problem, so to say, if I quoted with a term, was that um, someone felt depreciated, or someone felt not acknowledged or recognized. Now, I'm not saying it's just because of lack of curiosity, but if we were truly curious, we would have, asked a little more to understand more, and then perhaps, shared a responsible reflection, right, or a feedback. And I think this is it, because if I showcase myself as a truly curious person, then I can get through things, and I can learn through things, and I don't have to wait for some information to be put onto me, but rather I go and learn it myself. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, is that if you have the right set of people to learn with you, I think it becomes a much easier path.
Yeah, I think this is, it seems to be a clear answer to what we actually started the conversation with, right? Whether we are aware that education creates lifestyles. And I think just by talking about this, it's very clear that education does shape lifestyles, and it makes a difference. It makes all the difference the way I am as a person. If I am as a person, like you said, I experience learning. I go through the experience of learning with an open mind, with a curious mind. And I'm always using the term of beginner's mind, because I think the beginner's mind is so essential that that doesn't mean that I don't know anything. It means that I'm curious about the other person. I'm curious about what's new. I'm curious, and I get into the energy of wanting to know more. It's just a choice of saying, okay, what else is possible here? So I think I would like everyone to just experience the beauty of becoming this learner, constant learner, of knowing that we are really capable of embracing this beautiful life fully, and whatever happens out there, we don't have to negate what's happening, but we can say, okay, do I choose to go in this direction or in that direction? And I can make a difference. And even if it's just in a small context, but I can make all the difference in the small context. And I think that raises the energy, that raises also the clarity, that we can always listen. You talked about communication. Communication is a key thing within any community, because we need to communicate in order to be social beings. Otherwise, how does that work? So, and one important part of communication is the validation of the respective other. I validate the respective other. I don't have to agree, but I validate first, and I listen carefully, and then I validate, and then I move forward with other perspectives. And I think if there is anybody out there who says education doesn't shape, our lifestyles, then I would argue, then I think there is something that's not really understood, because education is there every single moment. Every single moment we look around us and we get stimuli which we react to or which we take on board and go forward with, and or create or destroy. And I would say it's important for human beings, rather than destroying in the sense of negativity, but to create. And sometimes we may even say, this hasn't worked and let's start anew, and that's basically saying, am I ready to reinvent, re-explore, and so forth. So I think, Naeef, we are coming to an end of this conversation, and my final sentence is only, lifestyle is everything, and that's why School Beyond Limitations says we are not just a school, we are lifestyle.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, education is not related to lifestyle. It is a part of the lifestyle. So let that sink into your mind and yeah, live through it. Thank you very much, and we'll see each other next week.
At School Beyond Limitations, we support our students find their unique essence. Feel free to share the content of this podcast with other parents. We are here to show that your children can, indeed, bring their unique essence into life. So, reach out to us if you think that this is what you'd like your daughter, your son to experience, or apply through our website. Also, leave your comments, your questions, or your review about the podcast. Share it with others. And as you know, sharing is caring.